What is an active investor and why does it matter? One of the questions I'm most frequently asked by low-budget filmmakers and theater producers is whether there's a way to avoid the cost and hassle of dealing with U.S. securities laws when raising funds for their productions. The answer is yes, but it only applies if your financing comes from what we refer to as an active investor. What is an active investor? Well, let me start with a little background. The securities laws apply, as you might infer, to sales of securities. That is, if an investor is purchasing an interest in something and will remain passive, that is, not participating in the day-to-day management of the venture, then he or she is pursuing securities. The securities laws were put in place to protect these investors since they're not in a position to look after their own interests relating to that investment. But on the other hand, if the investor is going to participate meaningfully in the operation of the business and will have a say in the business's direction, the law presumes that he or she doesn't need the protections of securities laws. So registration of these transactions isn't necessary. So what are the drawbacks of an investor being active? Well, first, an active investor in a venture might be exposed to the full liability that falls on the business. For this reason, active investment often isn't a very attractive thing for investors. And even when the investors are interested in taking an active role, it may not be good for the producer of the project. An active investor gets to vote on essentially everything, so he or she will be in a position to meddle in the minutiae of the project, and that can hamper efforts to maintain the project's artistic vision. Now, an active investor can also expose the venture to liability. By virtue of his active role, the active investor has authority to bind the venture to contracts and incur other kinds of liabilities and debts on behalf of the company. And although it's rare, the investor's personal creditors could even come looking to the venture for payment. Finally, too many active investors can be an unwieldy thing to manage. Even if you are able to navigate things easily, the old saying that too many cooks spoil the broth really is a truism. So active investor structures are a viable approach to financing smaller projects without the need for complicated securities law compliance. But these arrangements aren't without their perils, so be very careful when working with investors in these circumstances, and be sure you have an experienced entertainment lawyer helping you draw up the contracts to carefully outline the parties' rights and responsibilities and credits. Hey, do you like what you see in these Asked and Answered videos? If so, please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our answers. And if you have questions you'd like me to answer, head on over to firemark.com/questions.